Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Helen and today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. So I just watched Monty's video of this from It's Monty Price and I decided I really wanted to do it. It just seemed like a really fun tag. Essentially, I think the mid-year book freakout tag is a way to talk about your favourite and your least favourite book, what you're excited for, etc. I feel like I should give you an update very quickly on my reading progress. So my reading goal is 120 books, which is 10 books a month, and I'm currently on book 65 of that. I'm really happy with what I've read so far. My worst reading month was January, I think, and my best was April with The Owls. I read a lot. February was also pretty good, and to be honest, the month we're in now, the name of which I've forgotten, June, is also shaping up to be a pretty good reading month. So the first question is the best book you've read so far in 2020. And for that I have to give the prize to 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. I read this in February and ended up just absolutely loving it. 1,000 Ships is a retelling of the Iliad and the Odyssey based on the perspective of all the women who are involved in the Trojan War. And I just really loved this book. I read the whole thing on a train journey and fell in love with it. The next question is the best sequel I've read so far this year. And my best sequel that I've read so far this year was Read with Pride, which is the sequel to the Paper and Heart Society. I liked the Paper and Heart Society, but I ended up absolutely loving this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was just amazing. The Paper and Heart Society series is by Lucy Powrie and it follows a group of friends who make a book club, and Read with Pride focuses specifically on LGBTQ+ books after the school library has taken away those books from the library and is making students' parents sign slips saying that they're happy to take LGBTQ+ books out. I really loved this book. I thought it was really excellent. I really related to the main character. It was also really nice because the main character was demisexual, which we don't see much of in YA. So this is my next great book and I really loved it. It was definitely one of the best sequels I've read so far this year. The next question is the new release you haven't got to yet. I have 2. The first is You Should See Me in a Crown. My copy of this hasn't actually arrived yet. I'm hoping it arrives soon so I can read it, but I'm really excited for that. From what I know, it's a sapphic romance between 2 characters and a girl has to compete to be prom queen to get a scholarship. I don't know much about it. The other book I haven't got to is The Last Day by Andrew Hunter Murray, which is an environmental thriller set in Britain. The world has stopped spinning in this. We have a side that is entirely dark and completely frozen and a side the sun is always on, so therefore it's constantly boiling, and obviously life can't live in either of these parts, so there's a very thin bit life can live on, and a scientist there decides to find out what the government is hiding and what actually started this environmental catastrophe. I just really want to read this. So the next question is the most anticipated release, and I have 3. First is The Court of Miracles by Kester. This is described as a mixture of Les Miserables and Six of Crows, which sounds right up my alley. The aesthetic of the cover is beautiful. I know I shouldn't base buying a book off the aesthetic of the cover, but I just love that cover. The second book is Loveless by Alice Oseman, a book I'm very excited for because of the asexual rep in it. And the third is Troy by Stephen Fry, which again, the cover is beautiful, but also I really love Stephen Fry's retelling of Greek myth, so very excited for this book. Then we have Biggest Disappointment, and for this I have the only book I think I've rated below 3 stars this year, and it was Wakenhyrst by Michelle Paver. Yeah, this wasn't what I was hoping for. This is meant to be like a gothic thriller set in Edwardian Suffolk and with some creature stirring in the fens, and I was expecting a kind of really cool mixture between the Essex Serpent and Crimson Peak and The Little Stranger, because there was all this stuff about this big creepy house and it just wasn't that. I enjoyed like the first 100 pages of this, but the middle was so slow, so boring. There was no atmosphere, at least I thought there was no atmosphere. The characters were really dull. I forced myself to finish this. It wasn't enjoyable, so this is my biggest disappointment. If you loved this, I'm really glad you loved it. I just didn't. Next up, we have a biggest surprise of the year, and this is great because it means I get to talk about a book I love, and that is The Highland Falcon Thief by M.G. Leonard and Sam Sedgeman. This was recommended to me by Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin, who is amazing, and this book was amazing. I don't know why I was surprised I loved it so much, but I just fell head over heels in love with the characters, the setting, the mystery, all of it. It was great. So yeah, this is definitely the biggest surprise of 2020. I was kind of expecting to like this but not love it, and I ended up absolutely adoring it. So next up we have favourite new author. I have several that could go here, but I think the main one is probably Rutkoski, who wrote The Midnight Lie. This is a beautiful fairy loot special edition. I was kind of expecting to read this and to find it to be a typical YA fantasy romance, and ended up really loving it. I found the characters amazing. I know I say this about every book, but I loved the characters. I loved the romance. I was so invested in the world, and the twists at the end, while I saw them coming, I felt like that was more proof of good writing rather than it being predictable. So I really loved this, highly recommend it. I really need to read the Winner's Champion trilogy, which Rutkoski also wrote. I think she might become one of my new favourite authors, especially of YA. We then have newest fictional crush, and I have two. First is Anna Lightwood from Chain of Gold. She's just amazing. I want to be her. I want to be with her. But yeah, I'm slightly in love with Anna Lightwood. And the second is Dr. Bloodstain from Bloodstain by Linda Sejic. Again, he's amazing. Yeah, I might have a thing for disastrous tall characters with dark hair, and in Vlad's case, unidentifiable stains on their coats. Bloodstain in particular is a really great comic, and I highly recommend checking it out. It's on Webtoon. We follow Ellie, who goes to a mysterious house to work as a lab assistant to the enigmatic and mysterious Dr. Stein. And next up is newest favourite character. For that I have Brevity from the Library of the Unwritten. She's a muse, which I love. The Library of the Unwritten is a great book and I highly recommend it. The Library of the Unwritten follows Clare, who's the head librarian of the Unwritten wing in Hell, where books that are half written go, or like unwritten. One day a hero from a book escapes, and Clare and her assistant Brevity and a young demon called Leto go off after the hero, and on the way they find a rather important book. Next up we have a book that made you cry. For me, that was The Gargoyle by Andrew Davidson. The Gargoyle is about a man who is in a car crash and sustains incredibly severe burns that means he can't do anything he used to do. He has to face who he is and who he wants to be, and one day a mysterious woman named Marianne comes into his hospital room and tells him they were lovers in a past life in medieval Germany, and obviously his first thought is that she's insane. Over time he gradually falls in love with her, and she tells him 4 stories of 4 different lovers throughout 4 different places. So there are Victorian England, Imperial Japan, Greenland when the Vikings were there, and Italy during the plague. The stories are not happy, but the message of this book was kind of so beautiful, and every single one of the short stories made me cry quite a lot, as did the ending of this book, and I just really loved it. I really loved the writing style. I can see why it wouldn't be for everyone, but I found the mixture of short stories and the overarching plot of the monastery in Germany, as well as the overarching plot of Marianne helping this character back to life, really lovely. And next up we have a book that made you happy, and that is With the Fire and High by Elizabeth Acevedo. This book just made me very happy. I mean, a lot of the books on this list made me very happy. This book in particular was so vibrant, and yeah, it just made me incredibly happy while I was reading it. I flew through this book and ended up really loving it. We then have the most beautiful book bought so far this year, and I have 4 books because I'm really indecisive. So we have Felix Ever After by Kacen Callendar. Just look at how wonderful that is. Belle Révolte by Lindsay Miller, another book where I love the cover. Wilder Girls by Rory Power, and The Mercies by Kieran Millwood Hargreaves. And then finally we have books you need to read before the end of the year. So, The Mercies by Kieran Millwood Hargreaves, Wilder Girls by Rory Power, Belle Révolte by Lindsay Miller, The Robber Bride by Margaret Atwood, Black and British, A Forgotten History by David Olusoga, The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton, Bone Crier's Moon by Catherine Purdy, Exit West by Mohsin Hamid, Warcross by Mary Lou. So that is my mid-year book freakout tag. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know if you have read any of these, what you thought down below. I really hope to see you in my next video. I look forward to seeing you then. Bye!